Andy Mars, title, I guess you'd call me vegan camp director, vegan rabbi, longtime vegan, member of the board of trustees here at the American Vegan Society. I went vegan, though, in 1983, 40 years ago, before I knew the word vegan existed. I went vegan because I basically just didn't want to be responsible for causing harm or suffering in any way to any of God's beautiful creatures. So that's what led me to go vegan. I did some research about trying to figure out where would I get cosmetics and other things that I knew were tested on animals. And therefore, I searched and searched, and I found there was a company that at the time I believe was based in Baltimore called Vegan Street. And I got their catalog in the mail. This is before the internet. And I got their catalog in the mail. On the inside cover it says, "What is a vegan?" And I thought to myself, wait, I thought that was the name of the street you guys on. It's Vegan Street. And I read their blurb and I read their paragraph and I realized, wow, this describes me. This is who I am. This is what I am. And I am not the only one, therefore, who believes this, because there's a whole society based on it. So basically, I went vegan before I knew that there was a word called vegan. And I was concerned not only about the fact of not wanting to cause harm to animals for what I was eating and consuming in various ways, but I also didn't want to cause harm to animals in any way. And I knew there was such a thing as animal testing.
So 40 years ago, you went vegan accidentally, it sounds like.
I was living by my own ethical convictions. My ethical convictions said I should not, if I have the choice, be responsible for animals suffering in any way, shape, or form. So just as simple as I might, catch a mosquito in the house in a cup and a piece of paper and take them outside, I'm not going to be responsible for hurting any of God's creatures. And I didn't want to be eating any of God's creatures, whether it be cows or pigs or chickens or fish, or for that matter, eggs or dairy, which I realize came from animals and they were not meant for us to consume.
And you did all this on your own with just over time? Like, how old were you about then?
I was 17 years old, basically, at the time, and I just decided I was not going to be responsible for consuming animals ever again. I was moving out of my parents' home.
Radical to come up with that on.
Yeah, I was moving from my parents' home, and I was moving into my apartment, if you will, at college, and I was going to have my own responsibility for what I was eating and not being depending on somebody else. And it was just something that I decided at that time I was not going to do. But I was also concerned, food to me was not a big deal. It's easy. There's plenty of things out there. Plenty of people every single day are eating vegan meals and not realizing it, whether they're eating fruit or vegetables or nuts or grains or legumes, etc. Food I wasn't worried about, but I was concerned more so about the cosmetics because I knew that there was a lot of testing in the cosmetic industry. I did not know at that time how excessive and ridiculous it was. And so
Why cosmetics, though? Were you a part of that or something?
I had nothing to do with it. I mean, I'm 17 years old. I just knew that there was testing out there. I had heard about this thing called the Dre's test, which is just horrific. And I wanted to figure out, how do I know which things, soaps, shampoos, etc., am I buying that were not tested, were not contributing to that? And I actually went to the library, this is in Washington, D.C., and I went and did some research, and I came across, I'm trying to remember exactly how I came across it, but I came across this listing somewhere of a company called Vegan Street that was in Baltimore, and they were a catalog mail order company, and I asked them to send me their catalog, and I got their catalog in the mail. On the inside cover it says, "What is a vegan?" And I'm reading this and I'm thinking, what is a vegan? I thought that was the name of the street you're located on. I had never heard the word vegan before. Then I read their blurb and I just got this chill up my spine of feeling wonderful that there's a word that described how I felt, which means I'm not the only person who feels this way if there's a word that describes it, and I had not known anyone who felt that way before. And then I went back to the library after I got the catalog and I found out, hey, wow, I'm a vegan. And I searched up the word vegan and I came across the American Vegan Society. And I actually called up, I was down in DC, and I called up the New Jersey, South Jersey number here in Malaga, New Jersey. I called up the Vegan Society and I ended up speaking with Freya Dinshaw, who is currently the president of the American Vegan Society. And I spoke partially to her and partially to her husband, Jay.
At 17?
At 17.
Wow.
And they had a cooking class coming up one particular weekend and they invited me to come up for it. I'm in DC, they're in the middle of nowhere in South Jersey, I didn't have a car. It was the first time I tried to rent a car, it was a whole bunch of drama because I was so young, etc. But anyway, I found my way, I managed to get up here, and quite honestly, I missed most of the cooking class. Freya had a couple of wonderful people who were interested in the cooking class, and I was too, cooking in the kitchen, but Jay and I got so engaged in conversation. We sat in the living room here, and we just talked and talked, and next thing you know, food was ready, and neither of us were in the kitchen. We just enjoyed enjoyed talking to each other. We were like, you know, two souls, you know, meant to connect in this life with similar views and values and consciousness. And it was actually at that point that he asked me if I would be willing to consider serving on the council, the American Vegan Society Council. And there was an election coming up that I guess it was May or whenever it was. And next thing you know, I've been on the council of the American Vegan Society for close to 40 years.
Wow.
And it's been wonderful to serve with Jay, who is a great mentor in the vegan world, and with Freya, who is a wonderful leader in the vegan world, and just wonderful people. But I continued on with my life in various ways, which led, you know, it's just one part of my consciousness that led me to everything I do is going to have a vegan component to it because it's a part of my life. You know, eating is not the most important thing that we do, I don't believe. It should be. But the reality is that we eat typically 3 times a day, so therefore it's a big, significant decision in our lives. And so when I, you know, went into education, veganism is a part of it. When I went into running camp programs, veganism is a part of it. When I into running synagogue programs, veganism is a part of it, etc.
Nice, nice, wow. So you've been really active in it, and you found your people, your tribe, and it sounds like you've been doing everything you can to make a difference. That's excellent. Did you notice any physiological changes at that age, or were you pretty much, you know, as healthy as can be at that age and not going to notice something like that? You're not, or any kind of changes?
Well, quite honestly, I really didn't notice changes, but a lot of people warned me about things. And I had a certain family member, to remain nameless, who was all worried, well, where are you going to get your protein? Where are you going to get this? And where are you going to get that? And my response at the time, which was genuinely from my heart, was, well, who's to say that my health is any more important than the health of all of those animals that I am no longer going to be responsible for adversely affecting their lives? And I was prepared for health issues. Thankfully, none of them arose, and it wasn't until years later that I started learning more and more about, you know, the positive health aspects of being vegan. I didn't suffer for it, but I'll say I didn't necessarily benefit from it. I was pretty healthy to start with, but the animals benefited from it, and that was my purpose in the first place.
Wow, wow. Now, what kind of challenges have you had over these years being vegan in a non-vegan world?
I would say it's not that difficult. It really isn't. It's just kind of like a lateral shift. You have to change your way of thinking sometimes. You're going somewhere and maybe they're not going to have some great vegan options for you. So be prepared. Number one, I've always believed in you eat before you go somewhere and then you're not dependent upon what they're serving you. But B, always bring good vegan food that you know you'll be happy to eat, and you share it with plenty of others as well. Life is filled with challenges, but being vegan I don't consider to be a grand challenge. I consider it pretty straightforward and easy. It's just a way of life, but you have to shift how you think about things. You know, when I first went vegan, quite honestly, I had never heard of a vegan restaurant. I had never seen any kind of a health food store or a section in a regular supermarket that was filled with vegan options. In today's world, it is exponentially easier to be vegan than it was 40 years ago. But the reality is, even 40 years ago, markets are filled with fruit. Markets are filled with vegetables. We may not have had all the mock meats and the vegan cheeses and all of that. Not that we need those anyway. I'm not saying I don't enjoy them sometimes. But if you go back to the way we're supposed to eat, you know, a whole food, plant-based diet of fruits and vegetables and nuts and seeds and whole grains and all of those things have always been in the markets. It's always been pretty easy. And even back in the day when I would go to a restaurant, it was rare to find a restaurant that I couldn't get like a baked potato or some steamed vegetables or some rice or some pasta. There's always options.
Yeah, exactly. So it sounds like you've had a pretty easy road, generally speaking. What about with family? Has it been difficult there at all?
Well, I mean, there are certain family members who didn't quite understand, just like there's always some friends and others who may not quite understand. You know, you walk your walk, you talk your talk, you be consistent with your beliefs, and I don't consider it to be that particularly challenging of a situation. There's a certain family member, to remain nameless, who is very anti the concept of being vegan, and once at a vegan restaurant, was faced with a situation and this particular person pushed a menu forward and said, I won't eat anything vegan. So every time this person then posts on their Facebook page, you know, a picture where there's a French fries on their table or an apple or a banana or a potato or, you know, lettuce or whatever, I said, you can't eat that, it's vegan, sorry, you can't have that. But most people have been very understanding. They may be confused, they may ask questions. Sometimes people have genuine concerns about where do you get this nutrient or that nutrient. And when they're properly educated and provided the right information, they become fascinated about the fact that not only can we get all of the nutrients we need on a vegan diet, but it's actually a lot more absorbable into our human bodies, and we can be much healthier on a bad vegan diet than we can be on a standard American diet.
Yeah. I mean, some would say it's not more absorbable, but it's better regulated. Animals are so similar to us that we hyperabsorb like heme iron, which oxidizes. In a sense, animals are more absorbable, but that's what probably causes a lot of autoimmune diseases and cardiovascular disease and stuff like that. So,
well, yeah, most of the killers or the adverse health situations in our society can be tied to things that we eat. Without the right diet, without the right fuel, and that's what it is. It's fuel. You know, if somebody were to take, not that I'm encouraging, their gasoline-powered car and put Coca-Cola into it, it's not going to run well. If they put tomato juice into it, it's not going to run well. It's designed for a certain fuel. Somebody's diesel car is designed for a different fuel, although you could put vegetable oil in one of those. But our bodies are designed for certain fuel. We need to put the right fuel into our bodies, and they will run more optimally.
So have you been worried at any point in this 40 years about any certain nutrients? Or?
Well, I was worried, quite honestly, early on because I thought what I was doing maybe was not as healthy until I later learned that it was. It took a number of years, but then I was advised by, actually, it was, a doctor that I knew, that I should get a full blood workup, and they would do a hair analysis and all of this to try and check my nutrient levels. And quite honestly, all of my nutrient levels have been where they should be or better without any problems, after, decades and decades of being vegan.
What kind of ailments have you acquired being vegan?
None.
How many medications are you on for?
None.
And then could you be with somebody who isn't vegan?
As a friend?
And as like a partner?
As a serious relationship? No, because as far as I'm concerned, if I'm going to be with someone, I have to be with a woman who I respect. And I'm not saying that I treat non-vegans with disrespect, but for me to truly respect someone, there's certain ethical values that we would have to share and live by together. And, besides the fact that, who wants to kiss somebody who's just eaten, dead animal in their mouths? Beyond that, it's also just a matter of I really want to be with someone who shares the same ethical consciousness. And it's not just about veganism. It's a whole lot of other things as well, that you want to be with someone of like common values. And that's a big life value.
Yeah. Excellent. You have a quote you want to share?
Well, here's a good quote. One of my favorite quotes. I share this with students in a wide array of different capacities, and I think it fits, like we were talking about. I don't consider veganism or being vegan to be a grand challenge. I didn't consider it to be a grand challenge 40 years ago, and today I consider it far easier than it was even then. There's no excuse in today's world for somebody not to be able to go vegan. 40 years ago, it might have been harder, and some people might have been able to balk at different pieces. But it all comes down to attitude. So much in life comes down to attitude. So here's your quote. Your altitude in life is more a product of your attitude than of your aptitude.
If somebody sat down, say you were on a date, hypothetically, I don't know if you're married or not, getting ready to hang out with somebody, whoever it is, and they say, is it okay if I eat chicken? What do you say?
Well, first of all, when I'm taking someone out on a date, I'm taking them to a vegan restaurant. If I don't know them. With people who are potentially non-vegan, I prefer to take them to vegan restaurants. Then they don't have the choice to make a bad choice. When I am with vegans, I am willing to go and support a non-vegan restaurant that is adding more and more vegan options to their menu, because we know that we are all going to choose from the vegan options and support that.
Okay, but in the case where there's no vegan restaurants and they say, is it okay if I order chicken? What do you say?
Probably not someone I would have gone out with in the first place if that's what they're asking. But the answer to that question basically would be, I prefer not to sit at a table where an animal's life has been taken from it for it to sit on somebody's plate and go into their system.
So it sounds like the liberation pledge almost you would take.
Correct.
Yeah. Now, as far as religion, it sounds like, you're actively involved in religion, right? And I'm curious, people use a religion as an excuse often.
Well, for many things.
Yeah, to eat animals. Do you have a way of handling that you can share?
Absolutely. First of all, our synagogue is a totally vegan synagogue. Not every person who comes to synagogue with us is vegan, but when they're with us at synagogue, everything is vegan. The food is vegan. The messages are vegan completely. And it's not just that, oh, that's strange, it's a vegan synagogue. In an ideal world, based on real consciousness and based on true Torah Jewish values, every synagogue should be a vegan synagogue. Think of it this way. The Torah, whether you know about it too much, your Bible, your Genesis, your Bereshit, in the beginning, it begins with, in the beginning. And the very first commandment tells us, this is what I give you to eat. And it talks about food from the trees. Nothing else. that we are allowed to eat animals does not come until generations later, with people's weaknesses, where it's kind of like a concession. All right, I'll let you eat these things, some of these, but not others of these. But nowhere in the Torah are we commanded that we must eat an animal. And in the ideal, in the beginning of days, in the Garden of Eden, we were told this is the way we eat in our ideal world. The food, the fruit, the nuts, etc., from trees. And in the end of days, when we believe the Mashiach, the Messiah, will come and bring us into this age of peace and harmony and back to the Garden of Eden in a way, we are told, and the lion will lay down with the lamb. And we are going to be in a time and a place of not causing harm to others. As it was supposed to have been in the beginning, it shall again someday be in the end. So if that's the ideal in the beginning of days, and if that's the ideal in the end of days, even if we are permitted, and again I say permitted, not commanded, if we are permitted to consume other things in these days in between, why not still choose, because it is a choice, it is a conscious choice, why not still choose to elevate ourselves, even if not required to do so? Why not elevate ourselves to the holiest way that it was supposed to be in the beginning? The holiest ideal way it's supposed to be in the end. We can choose to live more conscious, ethical, moral, Torah-following ways on these days in between.
Yeah. So we're here at the Dinshaw's, and tomorrow is going to be the garden party, and you've been a tremendous help here. You've been working all day, you've been running around with the kids, and I really appreciate you doing this interview impromptu. I'm sure I caught you off guard a little bit.
A little bit.
So you want to talk a little bit more about this place?
The American Vegan Society has been here for over 60 years. Jay Dinshaw was a visionary. He realized that we needed this national society, this American society that was vegan, this American vegan society, to educate, to support and help people on their journeys and on their paths. And whether it be at conferences, or whether it be via a magazine, or whether it be via a garden party that we're having tomorrow. The garden party is the big annual American Vegan Society event, held right here in Malaga, New Jersey on Dinshaw Drive, named after the Dinshaw family. And it's a wonderful opportunity for people either who have this consciousness to come together with others, or people who are open to considering and learning about and finding about such consciousness to come together and have this wonderful event out amidst the trees and nature, and sitting out at the picnic tables and having wonderful speakers and wonderful food. And so yes, today some of the kids were working wonderfully responsibly and pulling out all the chairs and tables and wiping things down and sweeping up and just doing various jobs that needed to be done, so that we can have 100 or however many people coming here tomorrow for the garden party that is the annual event on the Sunday of Memorial Day weekend every year.
Awesome. Excellent plug. Appreciate that. Is there any other resources you might want to share with others, whether they be something like this, or it could be a book, documentary, or anything?
Of course, I love the American Vegan Society. I've been glad to have been involved for roughly 40 years at this point. Another organization that I also have been delighted to be involved in since not much after that, but I think it was like 1985 since then or so, is PCRM, the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. Dr. Neil Barnard is one of my favorite people on the face of this planet, and I think they are probably doing more good than many other organizations combined in the work that they do to educate people about how we do not need animal products to live better. In fact, without the animal products, we do live better. Dr. Barnard I first met when I was a college student in Washington, D.C. I used to do a lot of my work. I was not a medical student, but I did a lot of my schoolwork in the medical school library, just because it was the quietest of libraries. And I saw a flyer on a bulletin board there, and it was about this doctor who was going to be giving some talk about the importance of what we eat and all of that. And I went to this talk, not as a medical student, thinking that I was going to have to correct this person on some of the things he was probably going to say. Went in a little cynical. I went in, as it turned out, it was a big lecture hall, and there weren't a lot of people there. And I guess I stood out. He and I talked afterwards, because everyone else I think he knew there were one of his students that were required to be there. And I, though, was so impressed with what he said that I went up to him afterwards and was delighted to speak with him and realized that this man had a great future ahead of him in educating others on the importance and power of what we eat. So the American Vegan Society is doing wonderful things. PCRM is doing wonderful things. Back in the early days, I worked also with John Robbins and EarthSave, and he's done amazing things. His son, Ocean, is doing amazing things now. There's so many wonderful people who've been around for a long time doing wonderful things, and there's plenty of new players in the game as well. There's no reason, like I said, in today's world, that we should not be able to realize that we do not need to use or abuse animals for our own personal choices.
Well, if somebody wants to find out more about you, are you online at all? Or?
VegKids.org is one place to go for connecting kids with other kids who are trying to live conscious lives, and we have programs and things like that to connect kids with each other to make a positive difference in the world. VeganCamp.org, we've got summer camp programs that are totally vegan programs for kids. And then our synagogue is B'nai Tov, B-N-A-I-T-O-V, which means Children of Good, B'naiTov.org.
Wow, good stuff. This Veg Kids, really wanting to focus on raising children vegan. And it sounds like you're honing in and actually being creative in that domain. Talk about that a little bit, Veg Kids.
Well, Veg Kids is an organization. It's based up in North Jersey, up by Lake Apatcong. And we have events where kids can, whether it be going out and hiking and maintaining trails, visiting retirement homes, feeding the homeless, helping in animal shelters, just projects and programs and things like that. Provides support for kids who are already on that path, and it can provide guidance for kids who are not quite there. There's also the website kidsmakeadifference.org, which is it is a vegan organization, but it doesn't have the veg or vegan word in there. So we have a lot of kids who get involved who may not necessarily realize that they're getting involved in vegan programs, but that is a part of the consciousness and message. And it's just about helping kids realize that they have the power to make a difference in this world. They need not wait until they're adults to try and do something to make a difference in this world. The mission statement of Kids Make a Difference and Veg Kids is helping make a difference in the lives of kids and helping kids make a difference in life.
Nice, good stuff. 40 years is a long time. How do you stay positive in such a sick world?
Like I said, attitude. Attitude plays a big role. There are a lot of concerning things in this world. There are a lot of reasons to be questioning things in this world. We do live in a troubled world, but attitude is, I think, one of the most powerful things that we do have control over. I can't control what other people are saying. I can't control what other people are doing, but I can control my own attitude, and I can control how I communicate with others. I do believe in trying to be positive, even if sometimes I might not feel inclined in my heart to be positive. Putting positivity out there makes a world of difference. Just to give you a quick nutshell, one of the talks I've given at various veg fests and things like that, besides the concept of raising vegan kids, raising a vegan generation, is I talk about the world needs more chips. And I will start off, a little humorously saying, we're not talking about, potato chips or kale chips or chocolate chips or whatever. And I ask people what CHIPS stands for. And CHIPS stands for, the C stands for confident. If we know what we're doing is right, we have to be confident about it and put that aura of confidence out there. The H stands for healthy. We should be walking poster children of how healthy a vegan diet is. We were talking before about putting the right fuel into your body. And the reality is, a certain friend, to remain nameless, is on the soda and potato chip vegan diet and is not particularly healthy. But it's pretty easy to be healthy on a good vegan diet. So we should be confident. We should be healthy. We need to be informed. We need to know what this ingredient is, what this is, how this is produced, etc. Confident, healthy, informed, prepared. Talking about before, I believe, always go with a backpack, always have loads of snacks and food. So wherever you are, you're never tempted to have to eat something that is, not meeting your standards. Don't depend on other people to do for you. Always be prepared to do for yourself and to do for others. So confident, healthy, informed, prepared, and the S stands for supportive. We live in a world where many people have a bad association with vegans because they think of what they consider to be, the obnoxious, in-your-face, pushy vegan who is doing more harm by pushing people away. The saying, what is it? You attract more flies with agave than you do with vinegar, right? Something like that. I don't know. We need to be supportive. Not everybody is ready for a dramatic change. But if we can help people with every little step along the way, one step in the right direction is still a step in the right direction. So it's about attitude, and our attitudes need to be positive for ourselves, but even more importantly than being positive for ourselves, we need to be positive for others, because we have the power to help people along their journey if we put forth our right attitudes and be supportive to help them where they are with what they need.
Sounds like you've got a lot of good mental tricks there. And I like that. I love that acronym. I like that. That's great. Well, so what kind of food do you eat in a day? What have you evolved to finding being the staples you need in your diet?
I don't know that there is such a thing as a standard day. Like I said, I eat plenty of fruits, I eat plenty of veggies, I eat plenty of nuts, I eat plenty of seeds, I eat plenty of grains, all of the basic building blocks, sometimes in their raw forms, sometimes in, prepared forms, etc. Sometimes I may cook a big meal with many dishes and have leftovers throughout the week. Sometimes I'd rather not, cook and just might eat things which is better the way God made them, the way nature grew them.
Do you find it to be expensive?
If you're buying the prepared, frozen, or whatnot, vegan meats, vegan cheeses, it's going to be an expensive diet. Is it more expensive than the meats and cheeses that other people buy? Quite honestly, I don't think so, but I don't know. I'm not buying those things. I don't pay attention to that. But if you're buying things in their more natural forms, I think it's definitely cheaper. One of the greatest staples of a diet, in my opinion, is lentils. I love lentils, and lentils are cheap.
Yeah. Now, as far as kids, to kind of get close to wrapping it up here, I want to make sure we cover that good. How do you help others understand that it's safe and healthy to raise their children this way, and perhaps even healthier?
So Dr. Charles Atwood, a number of years ago, wrote a book called The Low-Fat Prescription for Kids, and it doesn't use the V word in the title. I don't believe it even uses the V word anywhere in the text of the book, but it basically is a vegan health, nutrition, education book. And it's a wonderful book. I used to buy cases of that book and give it out to all sorts of other parents because it would guide them and not turn them off and scare them off by using that scary V word, but it was a book that would help them understand how their kids can eat healthier. But also, in today's world, I often just send parents to the PCRM website. I will, if a parent has a specific health question, there's a page somewhere on the PCRM website for that. And if they're not going to navigate and search for that particular page, I will find whichever page, whichever article, or whichever book, or whichever resource from Dr. Bernard or one of his associates, and I make sure I send them there.
As far as kids, though.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, for raising their kids, information for that. But bottom line is, I've been working with kids for decades and decades. And I've helped kids in a wide array of capacities to live healthier lives as a whole. As an example, I did a dissertation years ago it was entitled Non-Medicinal Alternatives to Dealing with ADHD. And I have helped loads of kids change their diets and change their ability for the better to focus, function, succeed, etc. Diet, putting, as I said, the right fuel into your body does a world of difference. And it's more a matter of just, practical real life situations that's enabled me to help parents and help their kids, etc. There's a child I'm thinking of in my head right now who I was talking to his parents not long ago and have guided them on what they should be doing better for their child to eat and live. They were reluctant at first because it's a big change from the standard American diet and the way they've been eating. But they're concerned about their child's ability to function and focus and succeed, and they were willing to risk it by feeding their child fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, etc. And they were blown away by the results. And that's what speaks. Results speak.
Human outcomes, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely. Good stuff. Well, I'm glad you're so focused on that. We need more people focused on the kids for sure, because that's going to be the next big wave in the movement, I think, is more and more kids.
Well, there are so many kids today who actually are turning to choose to be vegan of their own choosing. Their parents aren't raising them that way. They may also not even know the vegan word, but I'd say there's an ethical consciousness that is growing, at least, here and here and here. There may not be a whole bunch of kids in any one school, but there are kids scattered all around that are developing this consciousness. And I do believe we are heading, at least little by little, in the right direction there. I know some people I've met who are vegan more recently, and they get frustrated because they want the world to change and they want it to change now and quickly. But it is happening. It's just inch by inch, row by row.
So you think we'll see a vegan world? Or maybe not we, but...
I don't know that we will ever have a totally vegan world in any time soon, but we are moving into a more vegan direction. Just to think about, not that I'm promoting it, but every major meat manufacturer in this country and around the world wants a piece of the vegan game. They realize some of them are buying out, little mom and pop vegan companies. Some of them are developing their own products, but they see the writing on the wall. They're smart business people. That's not my area. But they know that if they don't get on the vegan bandwagon, they're going to lose part of the market share. They're going to lose business. So that's why. Think about all the fast food restaurants that now are doing things that they years ago said they would never do because they see the writing on the wall. We are heading into a more vegan world. Will it be a totally vegan world? I don't know. Maybe not until the Mashiach comes and the lion lays down with the lamb. But we're moving in the right direction. And even if the rest of the world wasn't moving in the right direction, I encourage every person that I have the opportunity to encounter to realize that they still have the power to make their choices to move in the right direction.
What do you think is the most effective way of influencing others?
I think food. Food is the answer.
Feeding people.
If you feed people food that they like, and don't push all the facts and statistics and details upon them, just give them good food, let them enjoy it, and then later you can discuss, oh, by the way, did you realize? And if they've enjoyed the food, that makes, I think, the biggest difference of all. Because many people don't want to hear the facts. And unfortunately, many people don't, necessarily have in their heart yet that consciousness. But everybody's got a taste bud. And if they realize that these foods can be so good, that'll help.
Awesome. Well, man, you've been a pleasure, and I didn't expect you to have this much energy. This is excellent after working all day like this. So I really appreciate it.
A little caught off guard, but I'm glad to be here, and I appreciate you asking.
Excellent. We'll keep the ball rolling, man. We're doing good things together, and again, I appreciate your time.
Amen.
All right.
So Jay asked me if I would consider being a part of the council, and I've been honored to be a part of the council for a good portion, most of the last 40 or so years. In addition, thank you. In addition to that, I am a vegan educator, I'm a vegan parent, my son is somewhere around here. I am a vegan rabbi, I have a vegan synagogue up in North Jersey, I run vegan camp programs for kids based out of North Jersey. I've been doing all of this kind of work, just taking my work in education, my work in religious world, my work in the secular world, putting it all together because everything I do in my life is always based on veganism because it's just a basic part of life as far as I'm concerned. What we eat is not the most important thing in our lives, I would like to say, but we do, most of us eat 3 times a day, so it becomes a very important part of our lives, and it is a decision that we have great power over and great choice over. Being vegan is a part of my life. Being American, and I'm proud to be with you on Memorial Day weekend. And if we have anyone here in the audience who has served, thank you for your service. And of course, Memorial Day, though, is not Veterans Day. It is about those who paid the ultimate price fighting for our freedoms. So, I am an American, I am vegan. What better place to be than with the American Vegan Society? And I am a Jersey boy, born and raised, but I spent about 30 of my years in California, and I'm back here in New Jersey. I live up in North Jersey, up by Lake Apatcong, the largest lake in New Jersey, for those who do not know that area. And over the years, whether it be when I was in California, whether it be in my earlier years here in New Jersey, or whether it be more recently, I'm glad to participate in the council, provide input, advice, assistance wherever I am able and capable to do so. And as long as they want me to be a part of it, I'm glad to continue to honor my commitment to Jay that I made decades ago. And I thank all of you for your part in being here for this great garden party. As members of AVS if you are, or becoming members of AVS if you are not yet, checking out the book room, supporting the books, supporting the purchases, supporting the education, buying books, giving them out as gifts, all of those good things that you can do. And just glad to be here, and I thank you for your time.